and welcome to another episode of Up to Your Ears. I'm Vanessa.
And I am Josie. How's it going?
Muy bueno.
Yay. Well, geez, guys, we interview a lot of people, and I have to say I'm so really super excited about this interview we have today. Wow. This guy who we're about to interview plays in some of my favorite bands ever. Vanessa, he's from San Diego. Who do we have?
We have Chris Prescott, the drummer for Pinback. He's also been in lots of other bands that we love, like Fishwife and Tanner and No Night.
Light on the outside, the dark it's light on the outside. It's light on the outside, the dark
He's an all-around badass musician.
His whole life is music. And not only does he play with all these really rad, badass bands, he's teaching people how to play. And, one of those multi-instrumentalists that we love so much, those super uber talented superstars.
And I do know Chris, and he's actually a really humble, nice guy too. Just really super down to earth and kind.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. I love that. Makes you like the band even more. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
He's not here, is he?
He is here.
Hi guys, before we get going, if you like this video, please hit subscribe. It allows us to continue putting together these really great interviews with all the musicians that we all love so much. Thank you. Yes.
All right, let's talk to Chris Prescott.
All right. Before we get started, this lovely photo. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Came in this record.
Yep. I was just thinking about that record this morning, actually.
The crazy thing about this record is I pulled it out this morning as well. Sorry to interrupt. But
No.
This is insane.
Yeah. Silk screening the records, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I was telling Josie, I was like, back in the early 90s, I remember all those guys did such rad stuff with liner notes. Like there was always like really cool artwork in there, and you guys had a lot of fun with different colored vinyls and silk screening and just like putting rad stuff in there.
Yeah.
Even in the 7 inches, there's funny stuff.
Well, it's definitely a different era now.
For sure.
It's a sad thing, actually. Just I mean, of course, it's nice to like you make music and then you just put it out in the world immediately, and it's really easy, but it's not really as special as having a cool package of something that you worked hard on. And I'm into visual stuff too, like visual arts and just design and stuff like that. And so you just put a digital download out or something, and that has some like little picture of the art. It just seems so dumb, but
yeah. And you're not like decided that you're gonna like spend the next hour listening to this record, and while it's playing, being able to like hold something tangible and look through it and find out.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Like sit there, crisscross applesauce with your turntable right there, and you're just like, reading through I always did, reading through every little thing and looking for all the funny, extra stuff that artists would put in there, like special thanks to, or, just clever quips or like inside jokes within the band,
totally.
like.
And then even the thanks would a lot of times would be, bands that people had toured with, and you go, oh, I know those guys, or, it would just be, you start kind of getting a broader picture of, what they're sort of about. Not just like you're hearing some music, but you go, oh, they're kind of in this world, and we probably have mutual friends, and stuff like that, where you hear a song and you don't know where they're from, you don't know really even what label it's on, if it's on a label, or there's certain things that give it context that you get from a record. And also, like you guys are saying, the activity, right? Like music, listening to music is an activity. It's not just a background sound to something else that you're doing because you're multitasking because you're in a hurry to get everything done.
But
You know?
right, exactly. Conceptual. So it's like you really don't get the whole feeling of it unless you listen to the whole thing,
Yeah.
like from start to finish. There's a rhyme to the reason, or a reason to the rhyme. Reason to the rhyme. Whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah, and there's an arc too. There's an arc to
Yeah.
things, and sometimes you need a song in there that's maybe like a chill out 2 minute thing that helps make the bigger moments feel bigger. Instead of just being like hit, 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 and everything's just all the time.
Yeah.
It's like if you listen to the way that the band intended for you to hear it, and it's like, oh, it has a different impact on me.
That's, I think, why I like to sit in the car and listen to music, because it's like a closed sound space. And if you're in the car with me and I'm listening to something I like, it's like, yeah, I'm not really trying to chit chat it up with you. Like
Yeah.
the acoustics are really good in here, and I'm like paying attention.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, or you're just parked in your driveway and listening to music in the car.
There's a lot of that going on lately.
I weirdly do that a lot because I do a lot of recording, and the car is the ultimate test, right? So if you can pass the car test, you go, oh, all right, I think I'm done with it.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny. One of the guys that we recorded, this guy named Frenchie Smith, he's a sound engineer, but one of his things that he wanted for his studio was the car from
Burt Reynolds Trans Am in whatever movie, that Smokey and the Bandit, I think.
Yeah.
Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am outside of the studio, but with limousine style, so a whole band could fit in, so you can A/B the recording with a really nice stereo. He's like, it doesn't have to have wheels, just so we can all get in it and listen to it.
Well, plus, you got to know what your album's going to sound like in a limo. I mean, you just got to know that.
It's important.
Because, with that extra few feet in there, it's going to change the sonics a little bit. So you got to mix for the limo,
For sure.
Totally.
That could be your next liner note.
Yeah.
You got to mix for the limo.
Yeah.
This has been limo tested.
Limo, make sure that you dip about 500 hertz. Just dip it a little bit. I know it doesn't really translate in the limo quite right.
That would be a funny thing on like a liner note or the back of a record, like the dBs for like limo versus like a compact versus like your home stereo.
It's actually funny on the In Utero Nirvana record. Inside, they tell you how to adjust your stereo on in the back inside. It's like, make sure your treble's at 7 and your bass is at like 5. I think there's even a little diagram of like make your controls like this.
No.
All right, Chris, we have devised a little questionnaire for you.
Okay.
I guess, but are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. When you were growing up, what was your favorite cartoon?
I watched more. I mean, I watched cartoons, but the thing I really was into was more like the Japanese, like Ultraman and the Godzilla shows and stuff like that. I was into sort of monster stuff. So I would say that was my ultimate fave. So cartoons don't really jump out in my memory very much, but like I really remember watching Ultraman. Like I was just into that show so much.
My first question for you is, what was your first concert?
Yeah, I would say the first kind of like big concert I went to was the Untouchables, and that was at the Delmar Fair, kind of like our local fair, and
another fair show.
I saw that show.
Oh,
that wasn't my first one there, but I saw that show.
Yeah, it was awesome. But yeah, because I grew up mostly with my mom, but she would never take me to anything, just like she was supportive of me playing music, but she just really hated rock music. So so she would never take me to anything ever. But super supportive, and she's great, but she's not going to subject herself to that, or really music in the car or in the house either. It was like, it had to be like my own separate world, and yeah, I was a little bit like, I hear sometimes the kids like, oh, my first concert was AC/DC with my dad or something, like, oh my God, you
Yeah.
know? So for me, it was more about like once I got old enough where I could be dropped off with some friends somewhere, that's when all of a sudden like, oh, now I can go see concerts, you know?
Yeah.
So
That's
it was
cool
a little bit
though.
late for me.
Next question for you. So, where are you at on the book scene? Are you reading all the books that you have on your shelf? Do you read a lot? Are they just there for show?
I I have a lot of books, and most of my books are music related, like biographies or technical books, you know, like, you know, software manual type. But so some of them are references that I do use, um, and I read more now than I did kind of in the past. But I have like Jeff Emmerich's book. So and he's the guy that recorded all the Beatles records, and
Mhm.
I mean his book. I just could not put that thing down. Another book, I'll get like a maybe some fiction or something, and I'm just can't get drawn into it. So
Hmm.
mostly like when I read, it'll be biographies and stuff like that.
Yeah. My husband just finished that Jeff Emmerich book. And I feel like every 10 minutes he was telling me, can you believe that blah, blah, blah? Or
Oh yeah.
can you believe that blah, blah, blah? So I haven't read it yet, but it's definitely on my list.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, and I refer to it all the time because um, I also teach at elementary schools doing a music program,
Hmm.
and a lot of it is kind of history and stuff like that. And so, and the kids, they know the Beatles. And so, a lot of times, if we're talking about music, I'll make a reference to the Beatles because that's kind of the common denominator of, you know, things that people all know. And so it's funny, I'm always popping in a little story from that book because there's so many just really zany things that are described. And,
Yeah,
you know,
that's so cool. Okay, moving on. Speaking of zany things, what is
And the
the
use of the word zany.
zany? I know. I think that came from like a Scooby Doo cartoon or something. I don't know. Something that they would say, right?
that's a fine word. Zany is a fine word.
Zany. Honestly, I don't think I've ever used it until this very moment. So, congratulations to me for
Yeah,
using zany
happy
now.
word
For
birthday.
yay, zany! It's so zany. Could say I've used it 10 times. All right. What is the zaniest venue you've ever played in your life?
Oh, easy.
Okay.
Meow Wolf.
Yow Wolf?
Meow Wolf.
Oh,
Meow
meow.
wolf.
What's that?
Oh.
Meow Wolf is an art space in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Um, and I think it's Santa Fe. I'm kind of think, but and I think there's a few of them now that kind of are building out. But basically, they um, Santa Fe is got a lot of cool sort of arts, and
Mhm.
I guess Georgia O'Keeffe is from there and stuff like that. So um, there's a lot of galleries and people are into that sort of stuff, but it has a certain reserved sort of flavor, and these people came in and said we want to make this crazy art installation gallery place, and so they got this building, and it's you just walk through it, and every room is kind of an installation, and so like for example, but it's stuff you can touch. So like there's one area that's all like a futuristic jungle, almost like Avatar or something, where it's just like alien jungle. And there's things hanging all over the place, and there's all these kind of weird staircases that will wind up a tree, and then you open up a door, and now you're in this 50s style kitchen, and then you
Oh, gosh. All right. Vanessa, do you have another?
Yes. This is a newish question. Um, what is a hobby that you would like to pick up, but you haven't because you just don't really have time for it?
Well, I mean, the thing I really want, I wouldn't call it a hobby, but it's a thing that I really wish I could do that I don't ever seem to make time for. Is I wish I could speak Spanish better.
Ooh.
So, a bunch of times I've kind of like, I'll be on tour or something and I'll bring, like a Spanish audio kind of thing, and I'll stick with it for a little while, but then I just don't stick with it. And but then you sometimes, like, I'll go to Mexico, and then when you're there, you go, oh, I'm starting to get a little better at this, and then you go home and you don't use it really, and then you're kind of back to square one. So that's the thing. I really wish I could stick with it and work on Spanish, but I always find a reason to not do it.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, you're on tour and you get to eat one thing, just one thing, or one meal, the entire tour. What is it?
Well, I would probably go to Watercourse in Denver.
Oh my gosh. You have more
My
questions.
final question for you, Mr. Chris. When you started getting interested in music and deciding, what kind of music you were interested in or what instruments you wanted to play, were you always drawn to the drums first, or did you start out with something else and then move on to the drums?
No, I started playing piano because we had a piano in our house, and that's just sort of the traditional route, right? So, and both my parents are musicians, and my grandparents played music too, and so there was an expectation to play music, and there's sort of an expectation to, at least start in a traditional route, and so yeah, so I wasn't drawn to drums at first. It was more like I was just happy to play anything. Um, but it was kind of a disconnect too. So like I played piano and then I played cello for a couple of years as a kid, and my mom's a cellist, so it was actually the thing that was funny about that. Cello's awesome, yeah. So um, I really wanted to play bass because I was just so into AC/DC and Black Sabbath and stuff like that. So I wanted to play rock music. I wanted something that was just more kind of dangerous. And so I told my mom I wanted to play bass, but my dad was a bass player, like, but upright bass, like symphonic type stuff. And she goes, "Oh no, you're way too little to play the bass."
Oh.
Because she'd kind of misunderstood. She thought I was gonna try to play some huge bass.
Yeah.
And
You're like,
and
no,
so she goes,
electric
just play the
bass,
cello
mom.
instead, right? Because that's much smaller.
Right.
And so like, okay, I don't know why I didn't just explain to her like, no, I want to play bass guitar, but so it wasn't until I was like 10 that I finally, like, I was at a friend's house and they had a guitar and a drum set, and I was already banging. Like, I didn't really have sticks, but my dad cut me some dowels. He was a woodworker, so he was like, oh, just here, use these. So I was just like banging on stuff with these pieces of wood, and but it was a little while before I finally was like, okay, this is really what I want to do.
That's so awesome. Well, the final question I have for you, Chris, is let us know what's happening with you.
All right. Well, um, I have almost finished a record with I have this instrumental band called Montalban Quintet, which is like kind of like jazz inspired weirdo band. It's horns and
It's
stuff.
not
And
weird. It is awesome.
so thank you. But yeah, so we put out a record a couple years back, and we have another one done, but we haven't been able to do recording remotely. Like some people were able to figure out how to send me their parts on the last few pieces that weren't completed, and a couple people just could not figure out how to record themselves. So that's kind of like on hold until our world becomes more normal. Um, and then as far as I'm also doing a lot of recording at home just with friends. And so I started this project that's all every song is has two drummers on it,
Oh,
and
fun.
yeah, and I started that. The idea was sort of kind of more like community focused stuff. So, for example, a lot of my friends are drummers, but I never get to do music with them because a band usually has one drummer. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna have a band that's every song is two drummers, so I get to do music with my drummer friends. And then also, since there's a lot of people I want to connect with, like every song has to have different people.
I
So,
love that.
so I started that and kind of kicked it into gear during the COVID era. Even though the first bunch of tracks, people would come over to the house, we just set up two drum sets and just improvise drums, and then on two drum sets, and then I would um, edit it down into something that sounded like it made sense, and then I
Hmm.
would send that out to someone else and say like, hey, do you want to play guitar on this or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I've been working on that. That's and basically every day doing that.
And
That's so cool.
what are you calling yourselves?
Well, I mean, the project, I guess you got to have a name, right? I call it Marmoto, which is kind of like a Spanish word for tidal wave, but with a different spelling. But
Well,
but
you
I'm not
have
really promoting it. It's like I put the songs out, and I don't really even tell anyone about it. It's not like it's private, but I realize that like in the past, like when I've tried to promote records, it feels so futile, and um I don't like the feeling of bothering people. So
Mm.
if I make music,
You
I
are
just want to.
not bothering people with your music, Chris.
Well, I mean, I feel like I am, so I'm not really into saying like, hey, my band's playing here
Well,
or
that's what
whatever.
we're here for.
Yeah, I
exactly.
mean, it feels like the purest thing for me is to make music and then have that be the end. Like I made music and then that's okay. So now move on to the next song.
And
Instead,
again, that's what we're here for. Like you make it and then we'll sell it for you.
you're welcome to, but
Well, one of the
Look
tracks that
at
you
all of
did, you worked with Jake Nager, right?
oh yeah,
these
a few different
all
things.
of these songs that he's already put out. I already listened to them.
Uh,
It's all over. It's out there.
oh no.
So people out there, we we will. I was
You
listening
built it and now they're coming. Sorry, friend.
to Marmoto before the interview started, and I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." There's like all these crazy vocals. There's like it seems like it's kind of not all over the place, but definitely like different people involved, and I think it's fucking rad. That's so awesome. Well,
Thanks.
we'll Vanessa's really good about including all of the things in all of our videos. So people out there, they'll know.
Cool. Yeah, it's
Marmoto.
been fun and like I said, like you said, I know Jake was on your guys' show and Jake came over. He was one of the guys that made it in here before the lockdown and I've
Cool.
known Jake's a long, long time. So and actually we had played together like one time. It's just a weird situation, but it was the first time we got together and we're like, let's just play, and then a few tracks are coming out of that. So it's just like when drummers never get to play together, it's kind of a shame. And actually, the thing about having multiple drummers or like our drummer and a percussionist or thinking
Mhm.
about like Santana or something, right? Like
Right.
there's a different groove to having multiple layers of rhythm that it is just I don't know, it feels like it has such a better groove.
Do you release everything on Bandcamp, Chris? Like is Marmoto on there and Montalban and
Um,
Mm.
yeah. So I guess it is. Yeah, it's on Bandcamp. Um, but I was also doing the streaming through like DistroKid distribution. I mean, I wanted to make it easy for friends to check out if they wanted to.
And one of the nicest things that I ever heard you say was that, I was asking you about Pinback and stuff because I love them and have always. And I remember when I first met you, I was like, your band played at the 25 East D and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, I wasn't in the band then. And I was like, oh, but I still like, the sound was there, and it was just such a like exciting thing for me. That was like, a lot of it was, I'm so happy to see them be successful, and you said to me, you said, I'm just happy that I can earn a living doing something that I love. I'm happy that I make a living playing drums.
Yeah.
And it was just such a like, it was just such a nice thing to say of like, oh, that's lovely.
It's lovely and it's sad, right? Because like I feel like in a way, I mean, I've played in a lot of bands, but pinback it's a job, it's something I love to do, but it's a job. And it's kind of the first time, well, the first time it was sort of like a proper job, like sometimes you go on tour and you can make money, but this was like, okay, I could kind of live, I do a lot of teaching too, so it's like I have to make sure that I'm doing that, but it's all still musically related. But I think it's so sad that there's people that that just want to devote their lives to music, and and it doesn't really mean that even if you and I'm not saying that I'm like some good player or whatever, but there's people that are super good, and they're still gonna always have to have the day job, because they're not able to turn that into some kind of work. But that being said too, there's something that's really special about keeping music as like a sacred thing, and not having it be your work. But I think part of it is that these people need to make a living, and so they might have the thing that they're really passionate about, but at the end of the day, they'll take whatever gig they can get because they need to live, and and have their family, right? So it's a whole different set of pressures. So
Right.
so for me, I definitely, I never ever take it for granted that I can live through performing and through teaching.
We loved having you on the show, Chris. Thank you so
Hey.
much for taking the time to talk to us.
Yeah, thanks. It was nice to chat with you.
And just so that everyone knows, you're coming to us from San Diego, right?
Yeah, and more
Yeah.
specifically, my adoptive hometown of Encinitas, which is like the place I seem to never leave these days. But yeah, San Diego is a longtime home for me.
That's awesome. We love Encinitas. I think Vanessa lived there for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I think that it could even be narrowed down a little bit further to Leucadia Core.
Across the street's Leucadia.
Really?
Yeah, across the
You're
street.
just across the street? Oh.
Yeah.
The wrong side of the tracks.
I I'll walk over there sometimes,
Occasionally.
I'll ride my bike in Leucadia.
That's hilarious.
Well, we'll let you get back to your fam and everything else that you're doing.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you again for talking with us. So fun.
Have
Thanks so much, Chris.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh. Yay. He was
Isn't he so nice?
so nice. Yeah. He was a cool guy. And I love all of his, like, I love Tanner so much. I love Pinback so much. I love No Knife, so it's all these bands that I just so love. Yeah. People out there, get hip to what's happening.
Yeah, seriously. If you don't know who Pinback is, you need to know.
And they're one of those bands where it doesn't matter, like, if I want to be in a mellow mood, I'll throw a Pinback record on. If I want to be in an uplifting mood, I'll throw a Pinback record on. If I'm kind of sad, I'll throw a Pinback record on. If I'm kind of happy, I'll throw a Pinback record on. It's kind of all the things, right? I mean,
definitely, everyone needs to check out Montalban Quintet. It's really totally different than Pinback, but it's so interesting. And his brother Carl actually plays flugelhorn in Montalban, and they are just such, it's really interesting, fun music, and it does have some like jazz roots to it, but it's a really great sound. It's so cool. You need to check it out. It's on Bandcamp. Get on over there. Please subscribe so that our videos show up in your feed and you know what's happening. Please read the descriptions on the videos because there's links to the Bandcamp, their personal websites, other bands they've been into, any kind of connection that we talked about in our interviews. I try to include as much information there so that you can go down the most fun rabbit hole ever of finding out about your favorite musicians and all the different projects they've been involved in and all the places that they're going next.
I know. I think if you went down that Chris Prescott rabbit hole, it would take like a long weekend, right? I'm pretty sure it would. I mean, he's kind of like the what's his Kevin Bacon of San Diego rock and roll.
The 6 Degrees of Chris Prescott.
6 Degrees of Chris Prescott. It's true. He's like in everything. Come on, people. It's a fun game. Let's play it.
It is.
So
this has been Up to Your Ears. I'm Vanessa.
And I'm Josie. And it sounds good.
That was perfect.